To fill this out, what must you do? You put which numbers in, Parveen? Because you're absolutely right. You put some numbers in. What do you mean? The x's. Why do the x's? Why are they what we put in? But why? Yeah, the independent variable. The dependent variable depends on what happens to x, doesn't it? That's why we call x the input. And it goes in right there, yes? Once we do the math to the independent variable, what do we get? An output, or a value for our dependent variable, which is a member of the set that we call the set. What do we call the set of all the outputs? The range, okay? So the input will lead me to the output. Yeah? Now the output we know has a few other names. It is in the set that is the range, right? So is one single output the range? No, one single output is an element of the range, yeah? So we know that this is also the range, right? We know that it's the dv, and we're going to give it a new name today. We're going to give it, which means nothing to most of you, f of x. Now you've seen that in, I think that shows up on page 308. And for some of you that will seem alien, but we'll come back to it in a moment. So Parveen says we got to input these for x, yes? Great. What are our outputs then? -3, because 1/2 times -2 is -1. -1 minus 2 is -3. Excellent. What's next? -2. What's next? -1.5 and 0. Everybody cool? Now, if you were going to sketch this graph, what are the two easiest points to use of those 4 points that we just made? You got a 50-50 shot here, guys. What 2 points there would you use? -2 and 0. Well, you would use 0, -2, because we say the x is first. And? What would be the other point you would use? Because 1 point doesn't allow you to draw a line, does it? How many points do you need to draw a line? 2, because you got to join them. So what's the other point you would use? You would use 1.5 to sketch a graph? No. 4 and 0. Lovely. Why? They both have a 0 in them, yeah? So if I make my Cartesian plane, son of a motherless goat. Oh, for some reason my Cartesian plane is set to draw in white. That's kind of stupid. What color do I feel like for a Cartesian plane? I'm going purple. Now, sketch your graph. Well, 0, -2. Well, there's 0, 0. Where do I go? Down 2. Who decides how far 2 is? You do, because it's your sketched graph. But how do you show me that you know what you're talking about? Pardon? You could scale it like this, right? Or you could label the point. Either way, I don't care. And where's the other one go? Four, 0. Where's that? Right? 4. Now, would it be okay to put the dot right there? Why? It's too close. If this is 2, then I got to go out a ways here, don't I? 4, 0. And then what do I do? in a sketched graph? I just connect it. Because, of course, this is a nice connecting job, idiot. Is this a real-life situation or is it a math class? No. So this will go on forever, won't it? Why? Why do I need these arrows? And why is it continuous? Pardon me? The other 2 points will also be on the line, yes, but why? Every input will have an output. Can I input any number for x? Can I then cut that number in half? Can I then subtract 2 from that answer? Will I then have an output? Right. Can I use pi? Sure, half of pi minus 2. It still gives me an output. Right? So it's got to be continuous. Everybody cool? All right. So here is the new thing, yes? And we read this mathematical expression, fx is read as f of x. Okay? This is the name. This is the input. Now you guys probably remember in grade like 5, you saw something in your math textbook. Don't write this down. You saw something in your math textbook that looked something like this. And it was called the function machine. Mitchell is nodding. How many of you remember this thing? Okay. What was 6? Input. Except in grade 6, they had to draw you a fun little chart, a fun little game, rather than saying, start with 6. And then you added 2 to get what? 6 went in. We added 2. 8. And 8 was your output. Does everybody remember their grade 6 math textbook now? Grade 5-ish. Right? You all saw the function machine. And by the end of grade 6, there might have been 2 or 3 things. Well, you didn't, Jinwan, because you, of course, did math in a place where they didn't do fun little drawings like this. They told you what to do.
No, you did it here.
You were here?
In grade 6, you were. Oh, yeah, I need to provide that.
Okay. But some of you have indeed seen the function machine, yes? Okay. The function machine is grade 10 math, except it is this. Okay? So instead of writing, up till now, this is what you've seen. Y equals 1/2 x minus 2. Input, output, yes? Well, now we write it like this. F of x equals 1/2 x minus 2. Input, output. Okay? So how does it work? This chart had negative 2, 0, 1, and 4, yes? It had x's of negative 2, 0, 1, and 4. Cool? Now what is our output? In grade 10, it's no longer y. It is f of x. Okay? Everybody with me? Now, the x is negative 2. If x is negative 2, what letter is that? What letter is it? Oh. X. So what do we put there? Negative 2. So this here, the output is going to be the f of negative 2. But how do I solve that? Well, if the x is now a negative 2, and my f of x is 1/2 x minus 2, then what goes in? -2. Does anything change? No. You just put whatever is in the bracket in for x. What if it's not x? What if it's the f of t, and I'm doing 1/2 t plus 4? What goes in for t? Whatever is in those brackets. Understand? What did I just say? Repeat it back to me. What goes in for t? Whatever is in the brackets. Say that again. One more time. One more time. Excellent. So now tell me f of x is 1/2 x minus 2, and I want the f of 3x. What would you write? I just made you repeat it to me 3 times. What would you write? 1/2 3x minus 2. Okay? Whatever's in the brackets goes in. You might not get an answer. Do you understand me? Can you simplify that some more? Yes, of course, you would have 3/2 x minus 2, and that would be your output. Does everyone get it? Whatever's in the brackets is your input, no matter what it looks like. Everybody cool? Right now, it makes no sense, but it will in a moment. We're all okay with this? Instead of x and y, we have x and f of x. Everyone's cool with that? And we're all okay with f being the name of the function. Now, in this classroom, how do I know, if I can't see them, who this person is and who this person is? What is the thing that differentiates them? Because he's kid, he's kid. What is it? Their name. He's Joel, he's Gerard, yes? So if I have a second function, don't write this down, f of x equals something, 3x, and I have a second function, 4x. Can I call this function by the same name? No. So what changes? The f or the x? The f, because the f is the name. And we name it some other letter. Everybody cool? Okay. So, let's look at this next question. Now look at it. It looks extraordinarily strange, doesn't it? What's weird about it? Supreme. The variable is j. So, can I even do this? No, because this is an f of x and the variable is j, so I can't do anything, can I? I did this on purpose. Right? Because if I just said go, how many of you would go ahead and put that 2 in for j? How many of you would? Be honest. Yeah, I know, you all would. Because, my f of x, right, got it, no problem. Everybody with me? That's why that's written that way. This is no good. Rewrite this so I could do it. What would need to change? It would need to be f of j, 2j minus 7, or f of x to x minus 7. Everybody see it? Now, could you do these now?
Yes.
Right. So what would the first one be? F of 2. So how do I write that? F of what? 2. And now j is gone for 2, so what goes in for j? 2. And what is my output? -3. Lovely. That's A. Now you guys do B. F of what? And follow it through. Come over here. I'm going to write the same thing because you already know it. And while that is happening, you guys should be fixing this one up. What's going in here now? What's going in here now? -3. So it's 2 times what? -3 minus 7, which is -13. Over here, same thing, -3. 2 times -3 minus 7 equals -13. Everybody cool? Okay, now, what if I ask you to do something crazy? Like this. The F of lightning bolt. How would you write that? As a lightning bolt. 2 lightning bolt minus 3. Because whatever is in the brackets goes in as your input, no matter what. Does everybody understand that? Everybody cool? Okay. Now, in blue and green here, you have been given 2 points on the coordinate grid. Okay? A gets you a point on the grid, B gets you a point on the grid. What are those 2 points? Remember, a point has an X and a Y. So what are those 2 points in A? 2 and -3. Why is it 2, -3, Alon? 2 is the input, 2 is the X, -3 is the, so it's the Y. Everybody understand? So what's this guy's point? -13. Everybody got it? Sweet. Let's move on. Look at number 3. What's different? What's different? Our function has a new name, doesn't it? It's no longer f. This is g of x. Do our rules change? They don't, do they? I got to do the same work with Joel that I do with Gerard, yeah? Even though they're 2 different people. Right? So, I'm going to do the same work here. If I want to graph it, what do I need? Points on the graph, yes? So, I'm going to make me my table of values. X, and what do we have over here instead of Y now? G of X. So I label my axes. This is still X. What is this now? G of X. Brilliant! Now how do I fill this in? This always causes kids problems. If you are doing this question, what numbers do you put in for X? Do you have the choice of any numbers you want? Who chooses the input? You do. But look at this question. Does this question give you specific inputs? What do you have to use in this question? 6, -3, and 0. So those are all my x's. So I need the g of 6 first, don't I? So what does x become? 6. So what does this x become? 6 plus 1. What is -2/3 times 6? 4. -4. Plus 1 is -3. Do I have my first point on the graph? 6 and what? -3. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a red dot at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. -3. Everybody cool? Everybody cool? Great. So what's the next one I got to do? What's g now? Negative 3. So I write it as negative 2/3 times negative 3 plus 1. What does that get me? What happens to the 3's? Cancel. What happens to the negatives? Negative times a negative, positive, so that must be 2 plus 1, which is what? 3. So what's my next point on the graph? Negative 3 and 3. So I go ahead and I'm going to put a blue dot at negative 1, 2, 3 and up 1, 2, 3. Everybody okay still? What if you can't do this in your head? Then what do you got to do? Use a calculator or actually do math, right? I can do fractions in my head. You guys might not be able to, but you do know how to deal with these numbers, so deal with them, yeah? And then finally, what is the third input I have? G of 0. So negative 2/3, what goes in for x? 0 plus 1. What's my output? 1. So my third point, 1. So I put a green dot at 0, 1. Everything cool? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. What do I do with those 3? Why? Because it's continuous. Why is it continuous? Because every number can be divided by or multiplied by negative 2/3 and then have 1 added to it. So I got to connect the line. My straight line tool never works very well. This is a tough unit for me on the computer because the straight line tool makes me look like a tool. Everybody good? Everybody understand? Any problems? It just looks different. Is there anything functionally different? Functionally? Because we're doing functions? This is good material. All right. Now, look at number 4 and tell me what's different. Look carefully. Talk to your neighbor and see if you can figure it out. I'm going to rewrite the g of x because it's off my screen. Negative 2/3 x plus 1. Look at number 4 and tell me what you need to do. Nadja? You need to find x this time. Do you know x? No. Do you know the g of x? So where does this 7 go? Does it go in for x? Or does it go in for g of x? G of x. So how do I rewrite this now? 7 equals negative 2/3 x plus 1. Do I know how to solve that? Only if you remember grade 9 algebra. Do you all remember grade 9 algebra? What's the job of algebra? Get x by itself. By doing what? Switching everything around. Moving. Now, most of you are in honors, so most of you, we're all in this room. You're all in honors, so I'm hoping that you can do this without writing every step down like we did in grade 9. But I am going to write every step down. Parveen. Yes, absolutely correct. -1, -1. Now, because this is the first time we are doing algebra since the 9th grade, I would recommend you do all the steps. just for practice. 6 equals negative 2/3 x. Now what? You could divide by negative 2/3, but most of you are bad at fractions. So I would multiply by negative 3 to get rid of the negative and 3 at the same time. So now I have negative 18 equals negative 2x. Now what? Divide everything by negative 2 and I get x equals 9. Now, here's the million-dollar question. What is the point on the graph? Blank, comma, blank. What's going in those blanks? 9, 7, because that's the output. Does everyone see that? If I had a nickel for every kid that took that 7, put it in there, and then put it there, I could retire to a private island in Panama. Because kids don't listen to what we're doing. They memorize steps. Okay? Does everybody see why this is different than 1 and 2? Yes, because I've been given an output, but no input. Everybody good? Yeah? So now, everybody should be able to do number 5 by themselves, yes? Let's do it. I need the m of 7, so I'm going to write it out. 4/3 7 plus 2. You guys find the output. I need the m of 1, which is 4/3 1 plus 2. And then I need 5 to equal 4/3 x plus 2. That is the only help I'm going to give you. I'm going to start you off. You guys should be able to figure this out now. You may need to use your calculator. No, it's not negative 9 because negative 18 divided by negative 2 is positive 9. Negative 2/3 to get positive 6, that x would have to be positive. No problem. You have to remember your fractions to be able to do this, don't you? Is everybody cool with 28/3? Because this 7 is technically over what number? 1. 4 times 7, 28. 3 times 1, 3. What do I need to do to add these? I need a common denominator, which is what? 3. What has to be up top to make it equal 2? 6. To get me 34/3, yes? Is that an acceptable answer? Sure it is. What's the other way you could write it? 11 and 1/3. What's the other way you could write it? 11.3 repeating. Everybody good? Quick lesson in fractions to remind you of how to do it. Hopefully none of you needed it, but you might have. What about this one? 4/3 plus 2. 4/3 plus how many thirds? How many thirds? 6/3, which gets me 10/3. Is that an acceptable answer? Yep. But it's also 3 and 1/3, and it's also 3.3 repeating. Right? And finally over here, The 2 comes over, yes? Bring the 2 over here, but we minus it, right? So I have 3 equals 4/3 x. Multiply both sides by 3. 9 equals 4x. What does x equal? Nine over 4. Is that an acceptable answer? Of course it is. What else is it? 2 1/4 and 2.25. Everybody good? Everybody is good? All right. I'm not going to do anything for you for number 6. Make it happen. You can talk to each other, as always. 2 brains are better than 1. Share your knowledge. I'm going to reconnect now. Some people are done one of them. There is the algebra. I have not put the points out. The points are 2, negative 4.5, or 4.5, negative 2, negative 3.5, and 0, negative 4. Is everybody good with going from algebra to points to graphing? Is everybody okay? Even if this isn't finished, are you on the right track? Everyone? We can do that thing from elementary school where you give me a signal but everybody looks forward. If you're okay, touch your nose. Don't look around, look at me. Then nobody knows. Nobody knows. I know, right? Kale.
Can you explain the last one?
The last one. Yep. Our h of x was negative 4, right? So what I had was h of x equals this. So the h of x, that whole thing needs to become negative 4. So I got to solve that. Now I just moved this because that's how I do it in my head, because I've been doing algebra longer than you guys. So if I add 4 to both sides, what's negative 4 plus 4? 0. Now what's the only thing that could multiply by a quarter to equal 0? Right? Has to be x is 0. And then if x is 0, x is my first point, and my output we already knew to be negative 4. Cool? Alright. Everybody good? So everybody can go equation to table to graph. Yes? Everybody touch their nose. Okay. Turn the page over. Oh, is that okay? Can I go on? Turn the page over. What's different? I have a graph, but what is missing? The algebra. Okay? So, I'm going to make the black one f of x, and the blue one is g of x. Not g of 0, dummy. G of x. So, the first question says find the f of negative 3. So, am I looking at the black line or the blue line? The black line. Why? Because that's the f one, yeah? You guys don't have colors on your piece of paper, so you've got it named though. Now, what does this say? The f of x is negative 3. This is my input, yes? So since that is my input, what then is my x value? Is negative 3, correct? Where on the black line is the x value of negative 3? Well, here's 0. Where's negative 3? Left. So there I have an input. What is my output? How do I find the output? I find where the line is. So that, the f of negative 3 is what? Negative 2. Does everybody see how it's done? That's A. Is everybody good? Okay, what do I do for G? That's the line. I realize that you guys don't have color, so that's the line. So where do I go? Do I have an input or do I have an output? Input. So I have an x value that equals what? 0. So I go to 0, and how do I find my output? I find where the line is. Where is the blue line? Right there. So my output, my G of 0, is what? 2. There's B. Is everybody cool? Okay, you guys do C on your own, which I'm going to do in red. What's my x value? What's my f of negative 2 value? Would anybody like to volunteer an answer? So my x value is negative 2, my f of x is negative 3, because you went to negative 2 and you found your output. Everybody good? All right. Now look at D and tell me what's different. What do I have? I have an output, don't I? Which means, do I have an x or a y value? I now have a y value that equals what? 1. So I go to the curved line, the parabola, because it's f of x. Now, do I go to on the x-axis or the y-axis? The y-axis, right there. There's D. What's my x value? What? 0. Because it didn't move at all on the x-axis. Everybody cool? This is the one that messes people up. We're about to do it again with E. What do I have for E? That's an output, yes? Where do I find my outputs? On the y or the x-axis? The y-axis. So that means my y equals what? What is my y? 3. So where do I go on the line now? I go to 3 on the y-axis, and what do I find? I find where the line is. It is right there. So what is the x value? Negative 1. Is everybody cool? Everyone is cool? All right, now find f. Do that one by yourself. You shouldn't need to write anything down. You should just find it on the graph. If you need to write it down, that's okay, but you should be able to find it. Tell me just the point. 4 and negative 2. Can everybody do it? So now everybody can go equation, table, graph, and graph, table, equation. Yes? Okay. Now, what does this much blank white space mean? You're going to learn something. We're going to take it one step further. G of x equals x plus 2. Everybody okay? F of x equals 2x minus 2. I have two different functions, yes? Everybody cool? What do you think you would do if I asked for this? The f of the g of 3. Good gravy. What do? I'll tell you, you all know how to do this. So talk to your neighbor and see if you can figure it out. Stay cool, Alon. It's not life and death, man. Okay? There will never be a terrorist with a gun at your head telling you, I need the F of the G of 3, or a million people are going to die. Relax. But everybody try it. When you think you have it, pat your head and rub your stomach. Most people don't do that for me, Parveen. Thank you. That makes me very happy. Now my day can go on. I had a rough morning, so I'm glad somebody patted their head and rubbed their tummy for me instead of just being, Mars is a doofus. I don't want to pat my head and rub my tummy. Which is, of course, how you all sound to me in my head. Just like all teachers sound like a droning Charlie Brown guy to you. They all do. It's okay. I understand. I was a student scant 25 years ago. I was your age. I know you feel that 25 years is a long time, but it really isn't. Because, of course, as you know, time is relative. 1 year for you people is 1/15th of your life. 1 year for me is 1/41st of my life. It's still a year. But for me, it's gone like that. For you guys, oh my God, it's a whole year away. Of course, when you turn 80, a year is 1/80th of your life, which means nothing. Right? Few people think about time that way. I'm quite the philosophizer.
My mind is just like, okay, I'm just going to shut that out.
What?
What you just said, I was going to get confused.
It's not confusing. You're 15 years old. So 1 year of your life is 1/15th of your life.
Yeah.
I'm 41. So 1 year of my life is 1/41st of my life.
Yeah.
It's a smaller fraction.
It doesn't physically go any faster.
No, of course it doesn't. It just feels like it. Because, for example, half of your life is 7 years. Half of my life is 20 years. So if I spend half my life somewhere, I've spent 20 years there. If you spend half your life somewhere, big deal. You've lived there for 7 years. I have socks older than that. And I do, because I'm a boy, and boys don't throw away socks. As you all know, your mother will do her laundry, and she will hold up your sock, and she will put a finger through the hole and say, what the hell is this? And you will say, those socks are just getting broken in, Mom. Leave me alone. So what do? What is the F of the G of 3?
8.
Hannah says it's 8.
Yeah.
Anastasia says it's 8. Nadja says it's 8.
I'm going to go to
Supreet says it's 8. Ranveer wisely is like 7 other people answered and said it's 8.
I think it's 8.
Joel as well is jumping on the bandwagon. How did you do it?
I can only 7.
You have to do the G of 3 first, don't you? The G of 3 is 3 plus 2, which equals 5. So the G of 3 equals 5. Where else do you see G of 3? Right? So I need the f of the g of 3, which is 5. 2 times 5 minus 2, which is 8. Dun dun dun. Exclamation point. Yay! Everybody good? Functionally, I love it. Nothing changes. How many functions could I stack on top of each other in a set of brackets? Infinite, couldn't I? Yo.
What's the input and output?
The input is 5. Because that's the point on the graph. The output is 8. Good question. Do you guys work on that together? I like that question. That's well done. Nobody's ever asked that. 7 years of teaching math, nobody's ever asked that. 7 years at this school, nobody's ever asked that. Everybody good with function notation? Okay. There's your work, 319. Please make sure you have another look at 308 if you're dodgy. Now listen up. Look on your notes. What's the last thing in your notes?
A checklist.
That is your job. That is your homework for the weekend. That and this textbook page. On Monday, when you get back, I will give you the actual review assignment that has no answers attached to it, the one we do for marks, okay? Your job is to do this. When should you do this? Tomorrow after you finish the cumulative exam, if you have time, and then on the weekend. Do not do this tonight. What should you do tonight? Study for your cumulative exam. This you also do on the weekend. Okay? Everybody good? The cumulative exam is tomorrow. It entails the following. You will have 80 minutes with which to answer 36 multiple choice questions at a minute a question. That's 36 minutes. And then you will have 44 minutes to answer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 open-ended questions. That might be a little much, actually, the way you guys tend to stretch out your time. So, they're all pretty easy. You should be able to do it. I will decide, and I will let Mr. Close know what I expect to happen tomorrow. Yes. Radicals, exponents, polynomial expansion, factoring. Remember, you will need a pencil. Because there are 36 multiple choice questions, so you will be doing a scan prod. Great. Ladies and gentlemen, please ensure you actually fill in your functions checklist by Monday. Yo! Yes! That is awesome! Yeah, sure, you betcha. Now, you guys are going to do this whole test. 80 minutes is more than enough time to do that test. What? Will there be? Yes?
No! We try to organize your binder and then this
Well, you're doing your review Monday. We'll mark it Tuesday, so it won't be till Wednesday. Well, go win. Winners get dinner. What are you racing? 400 in the long jump, eh? All right. 400's a tough distance. I'm not a fan of the 400.
That's not a specialty.
It's too strategic for me.
It's not a specialty.
Because you only have a minute to work out your strategy. And if you sprint, you could be in trouble. But if you save your finishing kick for too late, you could be in trouble. Also because I'm fat. And running around a track without a bear chasing me is not going to happen. No. Start with one and then add the other. Don't try to start at the same time. And then reverse. Pet your head. Pet your head and tap your tummy. Well, normally it's rub your tummy and pat your head, right? Change it to rub your head and pat your tummy. I know. It just takes a moment. Thank you, some of you, for not being lame and still rubbing your head and petting your tummy. It's as close as I get to being a rock star. You know when the rock star holds out the microphone and the whole crowd sings? I kind of have always wanted to do that, but I have no talent. So I'm never going to be in front of a whole bunch of people singing. Although one time, long before you guys were in this school, there was a teacher band and I sang. Because none of the other teachers wanted to sing. Because they have real talents. They could play instruments. Although we didn't have a drummer. We had to get a student to drum for us. So we called the band that student's name and the Four Pretenders. Then I got fired from the teacher band for some student singer. I say creative differences, but I really know it's because I had no talent. But the kid that they brought in to sing at assemblies with the teacher band sang every song like it was an Elvis song. So they were playing Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, and the kid was singing it like Elvis. And not skinny, cool Elvis, fat, old Elvis. Because skinny, cool Elvis was awesome, but fat, old Elvis, whoa, 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 whoa. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. That was lame. Have a good day. Those dirty deeds were not done dirt cheap. Anastasia. Oh! Shocking!
Same.
You two! Well, I only get to have one day. You two have good days. You two! Wah, wah, wah. Wah, wah, wah. Wah, wah, wah. Wah, wah, wah.